I have retinitis pigmentosa, and they found out I had a visual impairment at 3 years old, and I started losing my peripheral vision at around 8 or 9. And that's kind of when I started looking into cane using and learning how to sort of start that process. I come from a very supportive family. Both my parents have been extremely focused on me being as independent as possible. And I remember in school we had to do this project as like our final for year 7 in primary school here. That was back, I think I was 10 or 11 at the time. And my dad helped me kind of build this prototype of like an engineered sort of sensor that you would wear in order to sort of see where you were going. Either that or like even we did a lot with cars growing up, and so he would always say you could put car sensors on a cane or stuff like that, and he always kind of made these comments like we could build one and we could sort of create it. And then once I heard about smart canes and I came home and told him, he was like, see, I told you it could happen and we could do something like it. And I found out about WeWALK through Bashir from Vision Australia here, and once I sort of looked into it, the first person I went and told was him, because he always said the same thing, is that I'm sure they'll make it at some point. And so he was right, which he loved hearing. It's a lot of fun to sort of use and talk about, which is nice. I'm someone who loves to be alone. I think that's one of my downfalls in life, is I'm hyper independent in some ways, where I don't like a lot of help at all. And I do like to do a lot on my own. I'm the type to kind of go and watch a movie by myself, or, go sit in a cafe and listen to a book or write an assignment, that kind of way. And I'm always sort of out and about in the city by myself. And it was coming to a point where my vision was getting really low, and my parents were kind of stressing about me having to sort of go around without help. And it's not like I really wanted it either. So they were sort of hoping, and we were looking into even possibly getting me a dog at some point, or something to just sort of help with the independent sort of side of things. And then when we heard about smart canes, I think that was kind of like the best sort of middle ground for us. Being that it is so helpful in terms of seeing spatially where things are, being that I don't have any peripheral vision left, it's definitely been really helpful. Most people know, in Australia at least, they know what a normal cane should look like. And once they see the smart cane, they're like, wow, what is that? Or how does it work? Or I've been stopped multiple times. I think for a lot of people who don't have the time or the accessibility to having a guide dog, I think it's definitely a nice sort of happy medium. But yeah, it's been really fun to kind of have that conversation with random people. Even this morning in an Uber, my Uber driver, the first thing he said is, that cane looks interesting. Can you tell me about it? And so it's quite funny now, where like it's a really fun topic to talk about, instead of kind of a sad one where people will kind of be like, oh, I'm so sorry, where they're like, wow, that's so cool, or I had no idea that this tech even existed. And I think that's one of the nicer parts of owning a smart cane, is being able to sort of show the good side of disability in that sense, which is quite nice. Some of my critiques of the first one were the like touchpad and the fact that it was so top heavy and that kind of thing, but I definitely think that the second one will be an even better version of what the first one is, and it's been super helpful either way. So I've had very little to critique about it, as I've already sort of told you guys, but I think any improvement will just make it tenfold more useful. But I'm very excited to see so many people sort of start using this tech more and more, instead of having to look up that app or go into Google Maps and look at how to do certain things. Like, I'll just put it into the WeWalk app and it'll show me exactly where I want to go. Or if I'm like having an appointment or something somewhere and I don't know what's surrounding where I can go for lunch or things like that, if I put it into WeWalk, it's a lot more seamless. I find it really helpful like that. I mean, kind of just day-to-day living, where you would typically like Google Maps things, I kind of just put it in there and it'll come up. Or if I'm looking for a specific thing like a cafe or something like that, it's much easier to just kind of go through there than to look online, which I find really helpful. It's a much more simple way of sort of looking at things, because sometimes even your phones can, as well as they are produced, they do also sort of become a little bit annoying and tedious to use while using a cane. It's like, what do I look at? What do I do? Do I focus on my phone or do I focus on my cane? And it's obviously the cane wins a lot more than the phone does, because that's obviously safety is priority. But the fact that it can be sort of meshed together is really helpful. The torch and that kind of thing, I think, is going to be really helpful for me in feeling that more independence sort of out at night, or even when I am with my family. Like, they do sort of stress a little more when it's dark, because they know that's more difficult for me. So even just having them not be as concerned will be nice. Or being able to do those things myself again will be even better, because I do try and be as independent as possible, and that'll also help with the safety aspect of things, which is fantastic. But yeah, I'm very excited for the new one. I think it'll be an amazing, amazing thing. So I had been using a normal cane for a very long time, over 10 years. And I was so used to that looking into a new way of doing things was very daunting. And I think one of the things I tried to do was sort of learn as much as I could, so sort of researching and that kind of thing. But what I would say is at least try it. So if you can, if you have that available to you, look up videos or even just come in and have a bit of a walk around with it. I think that was what the Vision Australia team did, was they sort of showed it to me and were like, have a go. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. But I think it's definitely something worth taking a day and having a look at. But I think also watching a video, or if you can, or if you have the ability to see it in person or feel it in person, I think that helped me kind of make my decision more than researching or sort of learning about it. But it was very daunting to sort of look at a completely new way of doing things when you've done it a certain way for so long. And that kind of becomes ingrained in everyday life. No one likes change. So changing was a very big change, but I think now it's something that I find really odd going back to. Because there are certain circumstances where you do still have to use your normal cane and you're like, wow, this feels so odd now that you're used to a different way. But again, no one likes change. So I think it's one of those things where if you give it a chance, you will enjoy it, or you'll find something good in it for yourself, for sure. I have a lot of nieces and nephews and little young cousins who are under the age of sort of 10, and they look at it and think it's like the coolest thing in the world. And as a kid, you kind of do want to hide your disability. That was something I struggled with a lot. It wasn't something I like to really tell people. So I didn't tell a lot of my friends until I was a teenager until they saw me with the cane, until I was visually impaired. Before then, no one knew. Until I was using my cane every day, no one knew I was visually impaired, and I kept it like that. Because it was very scary to sort of show people and tell people, especially because no one wants to be othered at that age. It's very difficult. But a lot of kids these days will randomly come up to me, or family members will be like, what's this for and how does it work? And you'll sort of let them feel it, or they'll hold it and you'll show them how it works. And they're completely floored by it. It's like the coolest thing in the world. So they're very excited. One of my little cousins, she's 6. We spent a whole day together exploring the city because they'd never been to Brisbane. And like whenever we would stop and sit somewhere, she'd take it from me and go walking around with her eyes closed. And I think it gives that sort of community feeling of you don't feel as othered as you used to, or it's not that there's not the sympathy of visual impairment where it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's kind of like, wow, that's such a cool thing that you have, or there's such a way to work around things. It kind of gives more of a positive light to disability, even for kids, which I think is fantastic. Kids these days are so used to technology that they picked it up faster than I did. And I was a cane user for a very long time before this. It took her an hour to get used to it, and she was happy, and obviously she wasn't disabled in any way, but she was having the time of her life with it. So yeah, it was really fun to see that aspect of it, which is nice. I think it's been one of the best decisions in my life to start using one of your canes. So I hope there's more and more where this came from.